Hey warriors, if I could watch your reactions for just 10 minutes, your face, your tone, your timing, I could predict your decisions. And if I can predict you, I can control you. That's the rule nobody tells you. Control does not begin with authority, it begins with emotional predictability. Most people think power is about status, money, or position. Wrong. Real power starts where emotional reaction ends. Look around you. The people who get pushed, pressured, and played are not always the weakest. They are the most emotionally transparent. They show everything. They react instantly. They reveal intention before action. They speak before thinking. They explain before being asked. And without realizing it, they hand over their psychological leverage. Not because they are foolish, but because they are unguarded. Machiavellian psychology is not about cruelty. It is about clarity. It starts with one uncomfortable truth: human behavior follows advantage. People test boundaries, they measure resistance, they study response patterns. The one who reacts fastest usually loses control first. The one who stays composed controls the tempo, and the tempo controls the outcome. When your reactions are slow, measured, and selective, pressure stops working on you. Provocation loses its grip. Emotional traps fail. There is a reason the most dangerous strategist is rarely the loudest voice. Silence hides intention. Calmness hides strength. Emotional control hides capability. When people cannot read your internal state, they hesitate. When they cannot predict your reaction, they cannot design your pressure points. Mystery is not a personality trait, it is a defensive shield in power dynamics. In this video, you will learn how to remove your emotional handles, how to stop rewarding manipulation with reaction, how to become less predictable without becoming distant, and how to build a calm, controlled presence that makes others think twice before trying to move you. This is about psychological armor, behavioral discipline, strategic self-control, the kind that makes you hard to pressure, hard to bait, and hard to influence. Most people never train this skill, which is exactly why it works. Before we begin, I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. I control my reactions. Number 1. Why you keep getting hurt. You don't keep getting hurt because others are powerful. You keep getting hurt because your emotional signals are visible and easy to read. When your inner state is exposed, your behavior becomes predictable. And when your behavior is predictable, your direction can be steered. Control rarely starts with force, it starts with pattern recognition. Someone studies how you react under stress, under praise, under challenge, and once your pattern is clear, influence becomes easy. Most people reveal themselves too quickly. A small accusation makes them defend. A small delay makes them anxious. A small compliment makes them cooperative. These responses feel natural, but in power dynamics, automatic responses are openings. The observer does not need to argue with you, they only need to trigger you. Once triggered, you start making decisions emotionally instead of strategically. That is where damage begins. Manipulators are patient readers of behavior. They test with small moves first, a dismissive tone, a delayed reply, a mild contradiction, not to fight, but to measure. If you rush to justify, they learn you fear misunderstanding. If you push back loudly, they learn you are ego-sensitive. If you try to please, they learn you want acceptance. Every uncontrolled response becomes behavioral data. Data becomes leverage. Over-explaining is one of the biggest silent weaknesses. When you explain beyond what is asked, you expose motive and insecurity at the same time. You try to sound clear, but you end up sounding unsure. Strategic communicators say less than they know, not more than they feel. Brevity protects position. Excess speech exposes it. Pressure should reduce your words, not multiply them. Machiavelli once said, "Never attempt to win by force what can be won by deception." The deeper lesson here is awareness. Influence works best when the target does not notice the method. Emotional triggering is a form of soft deception.
It feels like a normal moment, but it is actually a test. If your emotions answer every test, you fail without seeing the exam. Speed is another vulnerability. Instant replies feel confident, yet they are often impulse. Impulse can be provoked on demand. A measured pause, however, breaks the control attempt. Silence creates uncertainty on the other side. Uncertainty removes their accuracy. When they cannot read your internal shift, they cannot adjust their tactic. Emotional discipline is not emotional absence. You still feel, but you decide when and how feeling becomes action. That decision point is where psychological strength lives. When your reactions become intentional instead of automatic, attempts to push you start missing their target. From now on, treat your responses like controlled releases, not reflex outputs. Composure is protection. Measured behavior is armor. Predictability is risk. Drop this affirmation: my reactions are chosen. Number 2, understanding human nature. If you misunderstand human nature, you will misread behavior. And when you misread behavior, you make wrong moves at the wrong time. Many people walk through social and professional environments with a fantasy model in their head. They assume fairness, loyalty, and intention come first. In reality, advantage, timing, and self-interest usually come first. This is not cynicism, this is operational awareness. When you see people as they are, not as you wish them to be, your judgment becomes sharper and your positioning becomes stronger. Most individuals act according to perceived benefit. Support increases when incentives align. Distance appears when value drops. This pattern is ancient and consistent. It does not make people evil, it makes them predictable at a structural level. The mistake is expecting permanent loyalty from temporary alignment. When you expect constancy without incentive, disappointment becomes guaranteed. Strategic thinkers track behavior trends, not verbal promises. Language is cheap. Action is expensive. That is why action reveals truth faster than speech. Anyone can declare respect, commitment, or agreement. Very few will demonstrate it when cost appears. Watch what people do when there is risk, delay, or inconvenience. That moment exposes priority order. A person's real hierarchy is visible only when something must be sacrificed. Until then, words are performance, not proof. Observation must replace assumption. Instead of reacting emotionally to what is said, analyze what is repeated. Patterns matter more than moments. One dramatic gesture means little. Repeated behavior means everything. Professionals in intelligence and negotiation study baselines, normal behavior patterns before judging anomalies. You should do the same. When you know someone's baseline conduct, deviations become signals instead of surprises. Machiavelli once said, "Men are quicker to forget the death of their father than the loss of their property." The message is not about cruelty, it is about priority. Material and personal advantage often outweigh emotional narrative. When resources, status, or security are involved, behavior changes fast. If you ignore this reality, you will keep being shocked by decisions that were actually logical from the actor's point of view. Detach your ego from observation. When you watch like a scientist, you remove personal offense from the equation. You start asking better questions. What does this person gain? What do they avoid? What pattern repeats? What triggers their cooperation? This analytical stance prevents emotional mislabeling. Instead of calling someone fake, you identify incentive shifts. Instead of calling someone loyal, you identify aligned interests. Emotional victims personalize everything. Strategic observers contextualize everything. That difference changes outcomes. Personalization produces hurt and confusion. Context produces clarity and control. You stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and start asking, "What outcome were they optimizing?" The second question gives power. The first gives frustration. When you understand human drivers, incentive, fear, gain, loss, timing, behavior stops feeling mysterious. It becomes readable without becoming personal. That is the foundation of psychological advantage. You are no longer shocked by moves, you anticipate them. Drop this affirmation: I read patterns. Number 3, mastering your reactions. The person who governs their response governs the moment. Situations do not overpower you, your unmanaged impulse does. Every confrontation, delay, insult, or surprise creates a split second of internal surge. Most people let that surge drive their next move. That is why they lose position. Emotional impulse is fast, loud, and convincing, but it is rarely precise. Precision belongs to the one who can hold the surge without obeying it. Provocation works only when it produces visible movement. If someone can make you irritated on command, they can redirect your focus away from your objective. Your attention becomes hijacked, your tone shifts, your judgment narrows. You start trying to win the moment instead of win the outcome. That trade is costly. Tactical actors provoke to shorten your thinking window. When your thinking window shrinks, your error rate rises. Reaction control is not suppression, it is command timing. You still register the event, but you delay behavioral output. That delay is power. In that small gap, you choose posture, wording, and direction. Without that gap, you operate like a switch instead of a strategist. High-level negotiators and field commanders train this pause deliberately. They know that the first emotional answer is rarely the strongest operational answer. Emotional displays reward the aggressor. When pressure produces visible frustration, the attacker receives confirmation that the method works. They escalate. When pressure produces steadiness, the method fails. They hesitate. Calm behavior is not passive. It is disruptive to manipulation attempts. It breaks the feedback loop the other side depends on. No feedback, no calibration. No calibration, no control. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." Applied here, it means disciplined adjustment beats delayed regret. The untrained person reacts, then thinks. The disciplined person thinks, then acts. Speed without direction is weakness. Direction with measured speed is authority. Your goal is not to be the fastest responder, it is to be the most accurate mover. Breathing control is one of the simplest reaction stabilizers. Under stress, breath becomes shallow and rapid, which intensifies emotional charge. Slowing your breathing resets physiological escalation. That reset protects cognitive clarity. Elite performers, from tactical units to high-stakes traders, use breath regulation to prevent emotional override. The body can be used to steady the mind. Language discipline also shapes reaction mastery. Short answers maintain structure. Neutral tone maintains balance. Clean wording prevents escalation. When sentences become longer and louder, control is already slipping. Structured speech signals internal order. Disordered speech signals internal surge. People respond differently to each. One commands space, the other invites challenge. Another critical skill is stimulus separation. Not every trigger deserves engagement. Some remarks are bait, not substance. Some delays are tactics, not problems. When you learn to classify triggers before answering them, you stop wasting energy on distractions. Selective engagement is strength. Total engagement is exhaustion. Between stimulus and response, there is a decision zone. Most people leave that zone unused. You will not. You will expand it, train it, operate from it. That is where freedom of action lives. That is where pressure loses automatic control over you. Number 4, becoming unreadable. Predictability creates handles. When others can forecast your choices, moods, and next moves, they gain silent influence over your path. Becoming unreadable does not mean becoming distant or strange. It means reducing behavioral patterns that outsiders can map and exploit. Strategic opacity is protection. When your internal calculations are not publicly visible, pressure tactics lose accuracy and persuasion attempts lose direction. Most people reveal too much too early. Plans, timelines, frustrations, ambitions, next steps. They speak their intentions out loud and feel productive doing it. In reality, early disclosure invites interference. Once your direction is known, opinions appear, resistance appears, and sometimes quiet sabotage appears. Not everyone attacks directly. Many disrupt indirectly. Limiting disclosure reduces interference channels. Mystery generates caution. When people cannot easily classify you, they slow down around you. They measure their words more carefully. They avoid careless aggression. Familiar patterns invite casual treatment. Unclear patterns invite respectful distance. This is a psychological effect seen in negotiation rooms, leadership circles, and competitive environments. The less emotionally exposed the operator, the more carefully others proceed. Speech volume and frequency shape readability. Constant talk produces behavioral transparency. Controlled talk produces informational scarcity. Scarcity increases perceived value and reduces interpretive access. You do not need to be silent, you need to be selective. Answer what is necessary, skip what is intrusive, redirect what is premature. Conversation is not confession. Dialogue is not data release. Machiavelli once said, "Men should either be treated generously or destroyed, because they take revenge for slight injuries. For heavy ones, they cannot." The strategic lesson here is not violence, it is completeness and caution. Half measures create backlash. Partial exposure creates vulnerability. If you show fragments of your plan, you invite targeted resistance. If you show nothing until execution, resistance arrives too late to matter. Emotional neutrality in public settings also reduces interpretability. Extreme excitement, visible disappointment, and sharp irritation create readable spikes. Spikes form patterns. Patterns become prediction tools. Balanced external expression prevents emotional mapping. This does not remove your feelings, it removes the broadcast signal. Your inner world remains active, but your outer display remains steady. Routine variation is another unreadability tool. When your timing, style, and sequence always follow the same order, anticipation becomes easy. Small variation breaks forecast models. Change your response timing, change your meeting style, change your communication length, not randomly, deliberately. Controlled variation prevents behavioral profiling. Digital behavior matters too. Oversharing updates, goals, and struggles online builds a public psychological profile. That profile can be used to influence, pressure, or distract you. Strategic operators share outcomes, not processes, results, not preparation, achievement, not intention. This keeps momentum private and evaluation external. Facial control and micro-reactions are worth training. A raised eyebrow, quick frown, or sudden smile can reveal preference or discomfort. High-stakes professionals practice neutral listening faces for this reason. When your face does not leak decision signals, negotiation power increases automatically. Unpredictable does not mean chaotic. It means internally consistent, but externally non-transparent. You know your direction, others do not see the map. That is the balance. Structure inside, opacity outside. Number 5, detaching from outcomes. Attachment to a specific result weakens your position more than lack of skill ever will. The moment you emotionally need one particular outcome, your flexibility disappears. When flexibility disappears, negotiation power drops. Pressure works best on the person who feels they must win this deal, secure this approval, get this opportunity, or receive this recognition. Need creates visible tension. Tension creates leverage for the other side. Desperation has a behavioral signature. It speeds up agreement. It lowers standards. It accepts poor terms. It ignores warning signals. A person who feels they cannot walk away will tolerate conditions they would normally reject. Skilled operators look for this signal first. They are not listening only to your words, they are watching your willingness to leave. The less willing you are to disengage, the more control they gain over the structure of the interaction. Non-attachment does not mean lack of ambition. It means emotional independence from the immediate result. You pursue strongly, but you are not psychologically chained to success in that single moment. This creates calm bargaining energy. Calm energy changes how others evaluate you. When you appear internally steady, whether the answer is yes or no, your perceived strength rises. Stability is attractive in power environments because it signals self-sufficiency. Approval hunger is another attachment trap. When validation becomes fuel, influence becomes easy. Praise can steer you. Inclusion can silence you. Recognition can purchase your agreement. External approval should be welcomed but never required. The moment your identity depends on outside applause, your direction becomes externally steerable. Internally anchored people are harder to redirect because their motivation source is not transferable. Machiavelli once said, "A prince who is not wise himself cannot be wisely advised." The deeper meaning here is autonomy of judgment. When you rely too heavily on external endorsement, your decision center shifts outward. Detachment keeps your judgment center inside. Advice becomes input, not command. Opinions become data, not orders. You remain the final authority over your moves. Outcome fixation also narrows perception. When your mind locks onto one target, you miss alternate paths. Tunnel vision reduces creativity and situational awareness. Detached pursuit keeps perception wide. You see substitutes, backups, and timing shifts. You recognize when delay is smarter than force. You recognize when exit is stronger than insistence. Strategic withdrawal is often more powerful than emotional persistence. There is also emotional recovery speed to consider. Attached individuals collapse after rejection because their emotional investment was absolute. Detached performers reset quickly because their identity was never tied to that single event. Fast recovery preserves momentum. Slow recovery drains it. Resilience is easier when identity is separated from outcome. Language reveals attachment level. Listen to phrases like, "I must," "I can't lose this," "This is my only chance." These statements lock the mind into dependency mode. Replace them with operational language. "This is one path," "This is one option," "There are alternatives." Wording reshapes internal posture. Internal posture reshapes external behavior. The strongest negotiator in any room is the one who can genuinely stand up and walk away without emotional collapse. That ability alone changes how offers are presented to them. Detachment is not weakness, it is bargaining gravity. Drop this affirmation, "I can walk away." Number 6, building silent strength. Loud ambition attracts attention. Quiet progress builds advantage. Many people sabotage their own rise by announcing every intention before execution. They broadcast goals, strategies, and next moves. Then they wonder why resistance appears, competition increases, and obstacles multiply. Visibility without completion invites interference. Silent strength works differently. It develops capability out of sight, and reveals proof only after results exist. When you declare plans too early, you trigger three reactions in others: comparison, doubt, and disruption. Some will compete with you, some will question you, some will subtly discourage you. Not always out of malice, often out of ego or insecurity, but the effect is the same. Your momentum gets taxed. Energy that should go into execution gets spent on explanation and defense. Private preparation protects momentum. Underestimation is a strategic asset. When others believe you are average, slow, or unthreatening, they lower their guard. Lower guard creates operational space. You can build skill, network, and structure without pressure. Surprise advantage comes from expectation gaps. If everyone expects little, measured performance creates shock value. Shock value multiplies impact. Machiavelli once said, "Men judge generally more by the eye than by the hand," meaning people believe what they see completed, not what they hear promised. Spoken intent has low authority. Visible achievement has high authority. That is why silent builders often command more respect than loud planners. Results end debate. Announcements start it. Private improvement also strengthens discipline. When no audience is watching, motivation must come from internal standards instead of external praise. That builds durable drive. Public performers rely on applause cycles. Silent performers rely on personal metrics. Personal metrics are stable. Applause cycles are not. Stability produces consistency. Another benefit of low disclosure is reduced psychological pressure. When you tell many people your target, you create social expectation. Social expectation creates anxiety. Anxiety reduces performance quality. By keeping objectives close, you remove external performance stress. You work at full capacity instead of defensive capacity. Execution becomes cleaner.
Speech restraint is part of silent strength. Not every achievement needs narration. Not every step needs documentation. Strategic operators share selectively and late. Timing matters. Share when the structure is secure, not when it is fragile. Early exposure invites early attack. Mature exposure invites acknowledgement. There is also a power signal in composure combined with output. When someone produces strong results without noise, observers assign higher competence automatically. Quiet productivity suggests depth. Loud productivity suggests insecurity. Depth attracts trust. Insecurity attracts challenge. The perception difference is significant in leadership and influence environments. Energy conservation plays a role here too. Talking about plans gives the brain a false sense of progress. It releases satisfaction chemicals before real work is done. That reduces drive to execute. Silence preserves hunger. Hunger drives completion. Completion builds authority. Build skill where nobody applauds. Build systems where nobody sees. Build resilience where nobody measures. Then reveal only what is finished and functional. That pattern creates reputation backed by substance instead of sound. Drop this affirmation: I move in silence. Number 7, becoming untouchable. Becoming untouchable is not about becoming emotionless, distant, or harsh. It is about becoming internally stable and strategically aware. The transformation happens when your center of control moves from outside pressure to inside command. Before this shift, other people's words, moods, and behavior push you around. After this shift, external turbulence hits your surface but does not enter your core. You still hear everything, but you are no longer moved by everything. At this stage, your presence changes. You are slower to react, faster to understand, and harder to shake. Insults no longer pull instant retaliation.
Rejection no longer creates internal collapse. Betrayal no longer creates blind rage. Instead, each event becomes information first, emotion second. That sequence reversal is the mark of psychological maturity. Data before feeling, assessment before action. Untouchable individuals do not chase emotional revenge. They choose positional advantage when wronged. They do not rush to respond. They reposition. They strengthen alternatives, tighten boundaries, and adjust access. Their answer is structural, not theatrical. Drama is loud but weak. Structure is quiet but decisive. Over time, structure always wins. Your emotional investments also become selective. You stop giving full trust based on words alone. You stop giving unlimited access based on short history. You stop giving deep energy to shallow connections. Allocation becomes intentional. Attention becomes filtered. Not everyone earns front-row access to your mind and time. Scarcity increases value, including the value of your presence. Calm demeanor becomes your default posture, not a forced act. People begin to notice that pressure does not speed you up. Urgency does not scramble you. Praise does not inflate you. Fear does not corner you. This consistency builds a reputation of inner solidity, and reputation changes how others approach you. Manipulators prefer reactive targets. When you stop being reactive, you stop being attractive to them. There is also a shift in defensive behavior. Early in the journey, people protect themselves by arguing, proving, and explaining. Later in the journey, they protect themselves by selecting, limiting, and disengaging. Fewer arguments, more filters. Fewer emotional debates, more access control. Exit replaces escalation. Distance replaces conflict. Efficiency replaces noise.
Self-respect becomes operational, not emotional. You do not just feel worthy, you enforce worth through standards. Late responses to disrespect, immediate correction of boundary crossing, reduced exposure to repeat offenders. Standards are not spoken loudly, they are applied consistently. Consistency teaches others how to treat you without negotiation. Your nervous system also adapts. Situations that once triggered anxiety now trigger analysis. Situations that once created hesitation now create planning. This is conditioning through discipline. Repeated, controlled behavior rewires automatic response. Composure becomes natural instead of effortful. Strength becomes baseline instead of performance. Untouchable does not mean unreachable, it means unmovable without permission. Influence must pass your filter, pressure must pass your evaluation, access must pass your standards. That is the final form of personal power in human dynamics. Chosen response, guarded access, steady presence. You've just gone through a framework most people will hear, but very few will practice. That's the difference between entertainment and transformation. Information alone does not make you untouchable. Application does, discipline does, repetition does. The principles you learned here are simple to understand, but demanding to live. Emotional control, behavioral restraint, strategic silence, selective disclosure, internal stability. These are not personality traits, these are trained abilities. From this point forward, measure your progress differently, not by how strongly you feel, but by how well you hold your center under pressure. Not by how fast you answer, but by how precisely you choose your response. Not by how much you reveal, but by how well you protect your inner position. When your reactions become intentional, your words become measured, and your moves become quiet, people will feel a shift around you. You won't need to announce strength, your composure will signal it. Remember this, being untouchable is not about dominating the room, it is about not being dominated inside your own mind. Noise will always exist, provocation will always exist, Opinion will always exist. Your advantage comes from remaining steady while others become emotional. Calm is not passive. Calm is leverage. Silence is not weakness. Silence is positioning. Detachment is not indifference. Detachment is control over emotional dependency. If this mindset is the kind of psychological edge you want to build, then stay connected here. This channel is about Machiavellian awareness, human behavior, and power dynamics, the skills that make you harder to influence and harder to break. If this video sharpened your thinking, take 1 second now, like the video, share it with someone who needs stronger mental armor, and subscribe to the channel for more strategic knowledge like this. That small action helps this kind of content reach the few who are ready to use it. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. Calm mind, controlled moves. Stay measured, stay aware, stay unreadable.